There we go. So welcome. We do record, just like I just did, we do record these meetings and add them to our PFAnetwork website and our forum. So you are more than welcome to go back and watch if you missed one, or if you just want to revisit a topic, you're more than welcome to go back and watch the recordings. I do have live transcript available, so if you need that, there is in your menu tool at the bottom, there is a CC. Just click that and it'll bring up live transcript for you. These are our agreements that we go through each meeting. These are practice active and empathetic listening and sharing. Challenge the idea, not the person. We want to be both teachers and learners. We want to make sure we're taking space and making space for others. The stories stay, but the lessons leave. We want to use I statements. One person speaks at a time, and be here now, be present with us. We will go ahead and do our round robin introductions today. So let us know your name, your location, and what is your favorite meal to cook and why. I'm Laura Jackson. I'm the Director of Community here at PFCC Partners. I am located up in Eugene, Oregon, and my favorite meal to cook, I think, is spaghetti. It's easy, and it is, lets me be creative sometimes. Sometimes it's just a jar of sauce and noodles. But that is mine. I'm going to go ahead and start at the top of my list here. I have Barry Ross.
Hi, I'm Barry Ross. I am in Atlanta, the suburbs of Atlanta. And my favorite meal to cook is actually I like to bake. It's very therapeutic, and I think it's I like to call it magic. When I was a kid and my grandmother would go in with flour and sugar and come back with a cake, I thought that was magical. And so I like that magic.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Alan.
Hello, I'm Alan Coker. I'm from Manchester, Connecticut, and I'm a baker too. So I always try to imitate my mother's pineapple upside down cake.
Ooh,
I want to master that. It always reminds you of her when I cook it and when I eat it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I love all the baking. Nadine.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Nadine Alexi from Chicago. I too like to bake, not that I'm a master at it, but one of these days I'll tackle my late mother's mashed potato chocolate cake. I know it sounds gross, but oh, it's the best thing she's ever made throughout my life. If I had to pick a savory item, it would be tofu and brown rice because I'm a vegetarian.
Great, thank you. I've never heard of that. Chocolate and mashed potato.
Mashed potato. And of course, butter.
Right. Every good recipe's got lots of butter. Thank you. Carlene.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I am in Irvine, California, down in Orange County, at an orthopedic hospital, and I'm responsible for the patient experience here. And my favorite thing to cook, I would have to say, is vegan lasagna. And the reason I love making it is because people are always amazed that they actually like it. So
I love that element of surprise. Thank you. Dr. H.
I'm Harvey Eller. I'm located in central New Jersey. And my favorite meal to cook, I just changed my idea. My favorite meal is probably breakfast. Why? Because after teaching nutrition, I want to start my meals, and actually what I was eating wasn't the right things. and went from pre-diabetes to no diabetes.
Wow.
And love baking. Just made just baked a pumpkin pie with pecans on top.
Ooh, that sounds good. I'll bring the coffee, you bring the pumpkin pie.
That's good.
I'll send it to you.
Great.
Overnight
Thank you.
mail.
Perfect. Thank you. Marty?
I'm Marty Carney. I'm located in Boston in Martha's Vineyard. And my favorite meal to cook is actually cleaning out the refrigerator of leftovers, seeing what I can make with it. My mother was always good at that. And I've come up with some great meals, but I could never duplicate them. But I always have the satisfaction of having used up everything and not be wasteful.
Yes, I love that. My husband's really good at that. I'm really good at following a recipe. So thanks for joining. Deneen.
Well, greetings everyone from South Carolina. We're a little crisp here with the weather. Our seasons are changing and it's beautiful here. And I have moved into more of a plant-based lifestyle just recently. So I'm not quite 30 days in, but I'm excited about trying new recipes. And I find that I love roasting veggies. And my favorite dish so far is I've created a cashew queso. And I have been putting it on everything from breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all in between. So it's my favorite thing right now to cook is roasted veggies with cashew queso.
Yeah, that sounds good. I've heard of that cashew queso before and haven't tried it yet.
Delicious.
I might have to. Thank you. Holly.
Hello, everybody. I'm Holly Cowie, coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana. And much like others have mentioned, we are enjoying the change of season. Lots of beautiful color on our trees right now, which is nice. Fall is my favorite season, so I love this time of year particularly. My favorite thing to make, I love cooking and baking, so this is hard. I'm probably not a person who has one favorite thing necessarily, but one of my favorites, I guess, would be chicken marsala, and I like making homemade pie as well. So maybe that's because two of my husband's favorite things in particular, and I didn't start making them until a few years ago, but I enjoy doing so.
That sounds delicious. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Colleen.
Good morning. I'm Colleen Roylance with Mountain Pacific Quality Health, and very interested in learning more today. My favorite meal to cook. Can I just say I don't cook?
Yes, you can. Well, thank you for joining us today. Okay, let's see. Kristen.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from Virginia. And I guess if I had to pick a meal in its entirety to cook, it would actually be Thanksgiving. And I think for a lot of the reasons that you can all imagine, but it's one of the very few times my kids all get together in one spot.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. Lonnie.
Hi, I'm Lainey Knudsen, and I am in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I just love trying new recipes. During COVID, when my kids were home from school, we did country of the month or week, and we would choose a country each week and make food that was traditional to that country. So it was a good experimentation. Some things worked out really well and some did not, but we had fun.
That's really cool. I travel to eat, so I love that you kind of brought it. Thank you. Linda.
Hey everybody, I'm Linda Starnes and I'm down in Orlando, Florida, and I am a Southern woman through and through. And I can still remember the smells of my mother cooking chicken and dumplings, which was a favorite meal since I was a little one. And so I enjoy when I have the time and we feel like we can have that very fat and carb laden meal. That chicken and dumplings is the greatest of comfort foods, and it's one that my family enjoys as well. And so that is a favorite thing to fix for all of us. And it's Southern chicken and dumplings. There's a big difference in chicken and dumplings around the country. And so this is a real Southern one. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. That sounds delicious too, man. Should have had breakfast before doing this. Okay. Marla.
Good morning. I'm in the northern suburbs of Chicago, and I like to make vegetable lasagna. It's not quite vegetarian, but I get to sneak in vegetables in the sauce, and my husband doesn't know, so it's very exciting.
Nice. Thank you. That sounds good too. Making sure. I've got everybody. Stephen.
Hey everybody. Yep, I'm calling from Long Beach, California, where I do a fair bit of fishing. So my new favorite recently, I just learned how to roll sushi with some of the fish caught out here, and that has been my absolute favorite meal. My wife and I had to look up how much sushi was just too much sushi recently.
Sounds delicious. Thanks. And we have a phone number here. The last 40228. Not sure if that's somebody that already went or. Might be muted. Nope, maybe not. If you come off mute, feel free to introduce yourself. I'm looking through my list, seeing. I've got Bill and Greg still, but I will. Oh, Lisa, did I get you?
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
I'm here. It's okay. I'm Lisa Freeman. I'm in Connecticut in Fairfield, and I enjoy cooking. I'm baking is okay, but I'm not as good at it. And I like at the holidays to make brisket simas, which is a kind of sweeter brisket that has vegetables and dried fruit and matzo balls cooked in it. And it's really good, but it's so nice because you put the dish together and you leave it all day in the oven.
Oh, those are the best. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. All right. Did I miss anybody aside from Bill and Greg? I was saving them for last since they're presenting. All right, Bill, go ahead.
So I like to cook, and I'd say my favorite meal is the one that I'm doing at the moment. And I love fall cooking especially. So the other night I made stuffed squash, which is Minnesota wild rice and some long grain brown rice and some Italian sausage and lots of vegetables, broccoli and peas and carrots and celery and lots of other stuff. It can be a little bit of clean out the refrigerator as well with vegetables. We have a daughter-in-law who loves to garden and loves to bring us lots of vegetables. So we are well supplied all summer long. Meals are a very big deal at our house when everybody gathers, and breakfast is an especially fun meal. So the grandkids love when I make waffles. We have fresh fruit and everybody sits around the breakfast table almost till lunchtime.
I love that. Breakfast is my favorite meal to eat. Definitely. Thank you. Thanks, Bill and Greg.
I agree with you, Harvey. I'm actually starving now because I've been on all the time, so I haven't had a chance. Hi, everyone. I'm just outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, in a city called Brighton. My favorite meal to cook. I'll give the quick story that 5 years ago, I suspect we used our oven. My bride and I were busy professionals along the way. Probably used it, maybe 10 times in 20 years. And then COVID hit. I shifted my own work stuff 5 years ago and started cooking then. So I've tried a lot of different things, gotten a couple of those meal prep things so I don't waste ingredients, and that's been a fun thing. But probably, and this isn't really cooking, but it's the thing I like the most because I'm already missing summer, and that's I do although never the same, a useful gazpacho soup that is one of my favorite things to eat and make.
Nice. Thank you. That all sounds delicious. We do those meal prep things too. We do HelloFresh, and I love it. I love it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for giving me recipes mostly. We love these little check-ins in the morning. If you're just joining us after this, feel free to put in the chat what your favorite meal to cook is and why, and also feel free to use that chat box throughout the coffee chat as well. I will go ahead and move us along to our discussion for today. We've got Bill and Greg they are both PFAnetwork members, advisory board members for us, and they will be talking about the patient revolution. So I will go ahead and pass it right over to them.
Well, hi there. It's fun to see everybody today. I haven't seen some of you folks in a while. And if you see me swatting at something, there's an annoying fly in my office at the moment. So I may get distracted with this fly. So Greg and I are both fellows with the Patient Revolution. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Patient Revolution, but we're going to talk a little bit about it today. We're going to talk about what careful and kind care is. And most importantly, we're going to ask you to help us envision what careful and kind care would mean to you. The Patient Revolution is really, it's about conversation, really. It's about unhurried conversation, and we certainly want to have time to have unhurried conversation with you today. We don't come with a preconceived notion of what everything about careful and kind care is or will be, but it's through this conversation that we have, that we're all having with others around the country and really around the world, as we shape what this careful and kind care would look like. So the Patient Revolution was really founded by, or co-founded by, a physician out of Mayo, Victor Montori. And many of you may have heard of Victor Montori. He is an endocrinologist at Mayo, a researcher, a speaker. I've heard him speak any number of times. I'm in Minnesota, by the way, so I've had an opportunity in Minnesota to hear him any number of times. He's a national speaker, an international speaker. I heard him at Pecori one year where he was a keynote speaker. He wrote a book. Oh my gosh, he's written lots of books, but the book that I wanted to, you really can't see it, I got a lot of, is the Why We Revolt. It's a patient revolution for careful and kind care. And if you haven't had a chance to see that book, I would really encourage you to get it. It's an easy read, it's a fun read, and it really makes you think a lot. So we draw upon Victor's work and the work of many other people around the globe who are people like Greg, people like me, physicians, patients, people with lived experience, both as patients and providers, clinicians, people within the healthcare system, people outside the healthcare system. So Greg and I are both fellows in the patient revolution, and we will mention that later about how you could also become a fellow with the patient revolution. Victor actually recruited me a few years ago. He sent me an email about Christmas time and said, can we talk after the first of the year? And I thought he probably just wanted to catch up on some things I had worked with him before during the height of a project that I was doing called Baby Boomers for Balanced Healthcare. I helped them do some community conversations on a project that they were doing. So I thought he wanted to catch up. And after the first of the year, he talked. And despite my New Year's resolution of not saying no to any new things, I said, yeah. I mean, not saying yes to any new things. I said yes to Victor, and he asked me about the patient revolution. For one thing, I just think that the work that Victor done is just extraordinary. He's done a lot of work in shared decision making, and that's one of my passions. Could you put up the second slide? So there's Victor. There's his book. The Patient Revolution was co-founded to take a look at all of the things that are going on in healthcare that really prevent both patients and clinicians from having and providing careful and kind care. And I talked about how it convenes a global and diverse community of people with both deep knowledge professionally and lived experience. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. The reason that the patient revolution exists, could you put up the third slide? The reason that the patient revolution exists is because I think most of us would agree that healthcare has become an industry that largely puts profits over patients. Many of us have had experiences within healthcare where there hasn't been caring and kind care. A lot of times the care that patients are given is hurried. It happens in a hurried setting with physicians having only short blocks of time to see us and to diagnose us and to have a conversation with us about what kind of diagnosis we have and what our best treatment options might be. Even for physicians who want to provide careful and kind care, the system seems to step into the breach and prevent that from happening. It makes physicians produce and be on short time schedules and to have to meet this standard and do these conversations that we all want to do, the physicians want to do and the patients want to do, and then get on to see the next patient. So oftentimes physicians are needing to interrupt the patient when they're talking early on, and the patient really doesn't get to talk about the things that are important to them. There isn't any getting to know each other. Even for those of us that have an opportunity to work with individual physicians, the conversations are just not satisfactory to us or really to our physicians. They're just under tremendous pressure to see more and more patients, to meet this guideline for best practice, to do this. And oftentimes, I mean, we have a son who's a physician, and he's often doing his charts at home at night, taking away from his away time and from his family time. They have 3 little girls, and he doesn't have enough time to do all of those things. He went into medicine for all the right reasons, and it's really beating it out of him. So that's what, that's a little bit of why the patient revolution exists. We aren't here to, the patient revolution must transcend disassembling the healthcare system. What we really want to be about is partnering with the good things within healthcare, with physicians, with clinicians, with others to change healthcare so that it really is kind and caring. So mostly what we want to do is have a conversation with you. And I'm going to turn it a little bit over to Greg at this point.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Next slide, Laura, please. Thanks. So, Bill was talking about this, and I think it's just one of those things that when you think carefully about what your experiences have been like in the healthcare system itself, you can see how the system, and again, it is a system problem, creates particularly problematic ways in which and how we experience care. Right. So as Bill was describing, industrial healthcare, that stuff of thinking about when you go in to see somebody, in large measure for a system, you're a widget trying to get through the system as efficiently as possible to assure that the profit needs of health centers are maximized. And what happens in that kind of system is that everything is hurried. Patients become a blur. One of the things Victor talks about in the book is the ways in which you experience healthcare in some ways the same way you experience getting off of an airplane. Right. So there was lots of care and need to be sure that pilot was good, but you come off the thing and you're just a blur as you turn the corner to say thanks a lot for making sure that we didn't die. And unfortunately, that's a lot of what we experience in healthcare. If you go in for most, even primary care visits, you're rushed through a process in a hurried, blurring kind of way. And what that results, of course, is oftentimes really unintentional cruelty. And what do we mean by that? That means that if we don't take time to really understand you and your story and who you are, then it creates on the other end a whole bunch of cruelty, right? So if my goal as you come through is to be a factory that assures I'm fast, I can get your prescription quickly, get you through the 4 conversations we need to have about what symptoms you have, give you the prescription and get you out. But I didn't ask about everything else that goes on in one's life. What loneliness, how lonely you might be feeling, how you can't actually afford to get that prescription filled, how you don't want to talk about things that are really deep down in you. And that's part of the cruelty in the system that is played out both for the patients and for the clinicians. So this is not a patient revolution saying we're going against those clinicians. It's actually a revolution that says let's bind together in a system that seems to be broken and fix it, because the burden is really on the both the patient and the clinician for managing what happens in industrialized healthcare. And this chart is trying to sort of say, well, what would it look like if we actually went down a road from industrialized healthcare to careful and kind care? And so you can begin to see that there's a different rhythm in how one would experience care if it were both careful and kind. And also say, again, careful and kind care is some people say it's a really great little sentence or statement. But what it's really saying is careful, meaning it's run by evidence, right? We carefully look to see what's the best treatment for you by being careful. It's kind in a very different ways in which we bring the humanity back into human medicine. The reason why most clinicians go into the work is because they are kind people looking to try to care for folks. And so if we shifted from hurry to elegance, we're now shifting what happens in that time. If we go from blur to begin to notice, what else about our patients as clinicians do we notice, and how am I seen in true high definition? We move from cruelty, unintentional, to beginning to respond, and now becoming much more responsive to the ways and effects that healthcare has on an individual. And we move from burden, who's the burden, right? Not on the clinician, but having the patient figure out how do we balance the shared decision between what it means for healthcare to work and to be minimally disruptive in the lives of patients, and not give a list of 40 things with which you're likely not be able to even understand before you walk out the door, because you have to get to the next thing. Next slide, Laura, please. Oops, I lost. So what Bill and I want to spend our time thinking about with you is how all of us. So one is, if we're happy to take questions about this generally, like do you believe what we're talking about makes good sense? Do you think Victor is onto something about what's there? But it really is trying to envision a future. So when we use the word revolution, it's not used lightly or as a cool name for a book. It's used to really say, we've got to rethink the system as it operates now, where, as Bill described, much more around profit and assuring that we meet margins, and that we use car companies to help us to figure out how to become more lean in the system, and assure that all of our dashboards are green, which ultimately means that our CEOs can make more money and the people on the board do better, and less on the goals that most of us who are on the patient side of this would say should be the goal of healthcare. And so it requires us to think not just as, gosh, what might we do to shift it around and make it a little bit better and have encounters that last 12 minutes instead of 3 minutes. And instead it says, well, what would it look like if it were revolutionized, meaning transformed, meaning thought very differently than the model with which we exist now? And that's the aspiration of this, that if you can unite patients, caregivers, family members, clinicians as authentic partners to work in healthcare situations to transform how it works now, first acknowledge that it's a broken system. And second, okay, it's broken, but let's not just try to fiddle on the edge. Let's actually think about, what would it mean if when I went to healthcare, I felt like I actually got care, meaning me, not people like me. So I'm treated as someone with heart disease, not because it's just generally heart disease and we treat the heart, but it's me, Greg Merritt, being treated for heart disease, not all the people like me. And so it really is a sort of radical fundamental change that we've got to seek to try to maintain, with the ultimate goal. And this is why this careful and kind care for all, right? So that's the other piece about this. This organization has rightfully thought a lot about diversity and the wide breadth of people who are experiencing care in an inequitable way. So this requires us to think about, what would careful and kind care mean for all? Not that it's just increased profits, or we found new technology, or we found a way to fix this particular slice. And so we've got to figure out, how do we have truly unhurried conversations? How do we create frictionless environments for patients? So we think everything from the start of the encounter of they left their home, how did they get there? When they got there, did they pay for things that make no sense from a caregiving perspective? Did the process to get there mean that they went through a huge maze, including forms and other kinds of stuff? How do we begin to reevaluate what matters in this process? How do we create environments that are actually caring and beyond the way we think about healthcare? How do we find patients to help one another in healthcare encounters? How do we give options, for example, in allowing for patients who would be willing to meet with other patients who are in a same journey on a disease diagnosis or treatment as they are? Healthcare spends so much time on the privacy side, which I certainly understand, but less on the building community side, meaning there are some of us who would say, gosh, I'd like to know somebody 20 years post heart attack to see how has their life been different, what's their process, and I'd like to become friends with them because we can think differently and share our stories. And so we're really sort of here begin to think about how do we do this together? In this call, what is there, 20 of us or so? How do we begin to have the choir grow so that we begin to think differently about what the future of healthcare might become and the ways in which we could do so together? Next slide, Laura, I think gets us to the.
That's the last one I have.
Oh, I guess that is the seize the moment. Oh, that's right. It's right there. It says seize the moment. So Bill, I think you were going to maybe ask a question, or maybe we can stop here and see. You can come off mic or put something in the chat if there's either folks who have already read the book and are saying you guys are missing some important point about this, or you heard us, but you're not quite sure you understand all the things that we're trying to describe.
So while people are formulating questions, I will mention our fellows group. Greg and I are both fellows, and there are about 50 plus fellows who are from 10 countries around the world. And we meet monthly, and our monthly meetings are at various times to accommodate people from around the globe. So you can choose from the several different times that are available. But we don't meet routinely just to have meetings. I'm swatting this fly, sorry. We don't meet routinely just to have meetings. They are just tremendous opportunities to interact with other people who are thinking about this from around the globe, and to get people's perspectives on what's going on within their own systems of healthcare, not just the American healthcare system. It's not just the American healthcare system that is failing patients. Healthcare around the globe is failing patients in different ways. And we have an opportunity to learn from one another globally about what's going on and about how they may be addressing some of the same problems that we might want to address in the American healthcare system. So they're really great meetings. If you want to become a fellow, there's information on this slide, or if you want to get more information, you can Google Patient Revolution, and it's a pretty good website.
Yeah, I put the site there, folks, in the chat, if folks want to join. And again, there's no criteria about this other than being part of the revolution, right? So seeing all the things that we're describing, in that the healthcare system as currently organized seems to be a broken system, and we collectively want to revolt against that system and figure out, well, what would be an alternative that is truly careful and kind for all. Harv.
First of all, I just want one comment. I want to thank Bill for probably a year ago introducing me to the work of Victor, and I do believe that I did read the book back then. I don't recall that much. Get it out again and reread it, because your presentation today brought a lot of ongoing issues and concerns. What came to mind was a couple things for me. 15 years ago or whatever, when the Affordable Care Act first came out, I was teaching community college nursing students and pre-nursing students, and one of the students said to me, Dr. H, you think this is going to fix healthcare? I said, well, I myself personally, they knew that I had previously been a dentist in healthcare. And I said, no, you people out there, you are the future. You will fix healthcare. Not one thing is going to fix healthcare, is what I said to my students. But the other thing that came up when you said profits versus patients, Bill, then this new, maybe not new idea of concierge medicine, where people have to pay because I know a number of practitioners here in New Jersey that are doing it. And, not too far from New York where it's very common. But affordable healthcare has long ago become a major issue. And, conversations, I would definitely be interested in becoming a fellow and sharing my lived years of healthcare experiences from the practitioner side and from the patient side, because I've been both and still continue to be actively involved in organized dentistry, encouraging young people. The American Dental Association just had a national meeting in Houston. I get excited. Next Tuesday night will be our dental meeting, monthly or bi-monthly meetings of the New Jersey Dental Association, local component that I belong to as a lifetime member of over 46 years now, member of the ADA. I get lots of emails from the American Dental Association and New Jersey Dental Association to ask me to write to legislators of not only affecting what's affecting dentistry, but what's affecting the patients first. And because of the changes that are, yes, all of this has changed. But I remember as a junior student in dental school at Temple University in Philadelphia, and head of the periodontal department, who went on to become the dean of Louisville Dental School. He'd say, ladies and gentlemen, and ladies was one of my fraternity sisters, Joanne, out of 150 students. He said, the future of medicine is going to be exactly what it is today. And that was 1975. So he saw it coming. Everybody's going, oh, what do you mean? Doctors will work for hospitals? I just read a research article, how many anesthesiologists work not just for the hospital, but work for corporations. That's sad for me. I don't want my anesthesiologist, and I've had 2 surgeries in the last 2 years, working for a corporation, because we all know what that means. And I'll stop my blah blah there. But yeah, I will definitely get the book.
Thanks.
This afternoon.
Thanks, Harry. I've read the book several times, and you can see I've got a fair number of little sticky notes and bookmarks and all kinds of stuff here. Before we go on to another question, the whole issue of dentistry is just a huge issue here in Minnesota. I'm on the advisory group that advises our Commissioner of Health on public health issues, and we had a meeting just the other day, and access to dental care is a real public health issue as well, especially for people who are low income and people who are on the various Minnesota insurance programs. There just isn't enough dental care. So somebody's had their hand up for a while. Nadine?
Yes, thank you. 2 things, please. Dr. Montori's book, who's the intended audience? And my second question is, Have you, I'm always looking for that nugget that can be applied worldwide, something nobody's thought of that could make such a difference in healthcare. And that's my guiding force. So I'm wondering, have you, with the patient revolution, uncovered anything that I don't know, CMS has adapted or some medical journal, any interesting awareness that was applicable to healthcare?
So the audience, I think, is both clinicians and patients, right? So he was really trying to say the big picture here is that the system is broken, and he would argue corrupt in its current formation. For all the reasons you described. So the challenge, you rightfully point out kind of a what do we do about this? And so to answer both Marla's question about access to healthcare in rural areas and yours, Nadine, around the notion of, so what's the nugget that says you could fix this? And that, I think, at the heart of this is the challenge, right? So if you try to find the nugget, it creates like something on the edge, say fix Medicare, you're still in the same system trying to just say, well, let me get this piece and see if we can fix that. So it's really sort of a conversation that starts with, let's envision the future of a revolution that does not look the way today's looks. So what do we need to do in medical schools and nursing schools and dentistry schools and pharmacy schools to rethink the people who will be the future leaders, both in healthcare, but also in Congress and other kind of places where, so that's a piece that we're actively working on, developing a medical school curriculum kind of stuff that's there. And then much of it really is this question of, so if we think about why we would revolt, most everyone who reads the book or hears about this says, yeah, we definitely should revolt. It's not a system that's working for everybody. It's the how that, of course, is the big challenge for everyone. And so we've spent much of that on a playbook, thinking about how do we revolt. And so some of this is joining this group of fellows moves us towards something to say, let's tackle each of these things that get raised. So you raise an issue of payments but all right, how would we manage payment side of this? What should be the things that we think about on the policy side? How do we navigate who's a part of the conversation, right? So how do we co-create opportunities for both patients and clinicians to partner together? Who do we go? What associations do we go to say, hey, you all are just playing in the same system. We need to change the system. And that's the question, I think, that Victor's trying to raise.
Thank you for just explaining that.
Holly's got her hand up.
Can you hear me? Gosh, I don't know that I have a solution. I just wanted to say, or great ideas necessarily. This is something I've been confronting already in a smaller subset of the field. I'm a parent of a child with medical complexity, and I work for the IU School of Medicine here in Indianapolis and directly with residents. I think I just want to share that my work with residents over the last 5 years just, I think, underscores what you say. Like, they're all here for the right reasons. They want to provide good care, but on all the conversations that I have with them, it's systematic barriers that prevent that, right? So we did start a few years ago and developed a bit of curriculum on our DBP rotation around children with medical and developmental complexity, and just sort of like what really matters to families, what are physicians doing versus what really matters to family. And we're having really great conversations. And again, I think hearing and having validation that these future providers want to do the right things. They want to serve our particular families better, but the system, again, is the barrier. And so I think systematically, that's the part I struggle. How do you get a healthcare system to change? For instance, our big healthcare system here has 15-minute appointments. It doesn't matter that you have a child coming in to be seen who has 6 organ systems involved, nonverbal, uses a wheelchair, has home nursing. How do you even begin to think you can do anything useful in 15 minutes for such a patient, right? It's astounding to me that we don't have at least some sort of different leveling of appointments. So in my mind, that would be more ideal, that a provider could say, I have, a patient who has to have a half hour minimally. But to me, it all goes back to payment, right? Like I can want to do the right things all day long. And those who do usually pay the consequence by giving up their evenings, right? With their family and their kids, by doing what they want to do throughout the day, but that's not sustainable. And so I guess I'm agreeing. I'm as frustrated and passionate about this as you. Probably should have joined the movement. Just struggling with how do we get the systems to change. Systematic influence seems like a long, slow slog. And are there smaller things that we can teach in medical school and training that can help in the meantime?
Thank you, Holly.
Thanks. Yeah, I think that's a report. So I put the sort of version 1.0 of How We Revolt guide there, because I think you all are exactly where I would have been at the beginning, which is, I agree. This seems like a really bad, the system seems broken. What are we going to do to fix it? And the how, getting to the how is the place that, of course, is challenging for all of us, because when you think about a revolution, it may be, and I think Victor's talking about this, we could be working on something that's 100 years down the road. But if we don't start today, we'll just keep having the same system work along the margins and still have things like your zip code deciding how long somebody's going to live, which is absurd.
Sarah?
Yes, thank you. I'm a mother of a heart transplant patient who's doing well now. I've had just a wonderful experience overall, but got involved to help other families. And so I'm loving this. I'm really excited to become a care activist, a fellow. A lot of the things that Holly said, I just completely echo, of course. I was speaking with my uncle who is helping to develop a new, just a whole new system of educating over at Columbia. And he was talking about just turning it upside down and doing it completely in a different way. They're redesigning everything. And I think that is going to be a good way to start. Revolution, if you think of revolution, often, you think of students and young people, who are on fire and like, I think it was Bill that said, these people get into this line of work because they care and they want to help people. So, especially early, if we can help capture that fire, their imagination before they kind of, and maybe, develop a different system of education, for sure, develop a different system of education so that as they're, coming into this and learning that they can really latch on to the things that work and do it differently rather than, oh, here's the system that we have to get involved in. So of course, it's from the bottom up and top down. And then also another piece of just empowering patients and families. We all know that that's a key. That partnership is going to be so important as we transform and have this revolution. But there are so many families and patients that feel like they don't have any voice at all. We all know this. And the more we listen to each other, to every family, to every patient, the better things are going to get. And again, it's, how, the how. But, there are things that we can each do at our organizations to help families know that they are going to be heard. I love that statement. I actually got care, not just that I got care, just like all the people like me. Seeing people as individuals, there's so much we can do, as people enter the hospital system. And then, like Holly said, the time involved, how can we create tools that families and professionals can use as we're caring for these kids, I'm pediatric centered right now, but care for people, not just a diagnosis. So lots of stuff there, but so excited. Thank you so much for the presentation and so glad to be here today.
Thank you, Sarah. I love that. Care for the people, not just the diagnosis. That's great. I'm going to write that down. Marty.
I'll just take a few minutes. First of all, I'll talk about the value-based care. I just presented in the Netherlands earlier this year, and I have a paper coming out which will come out of Harvard in the next couple of weeks, and I'll share with you, but it's not necessarily patients as partners, it's patients as teachers, because we have to teach the people that we partner with our value. And so I always call, like, a lot of people have a lot of alphabet soup. We don't necessarily, as patients, have alphabet soup, but we all have a PhD, and that's a personal history of our disease. And that's what makes us unique and special. And they can apply whatever they want that they have learned to our personal history of disease. And in that way, I think you have better outcomes. And in reality, we had two major appointments yesterday, one with a primary care and one with a cardiologist, that were absolutely perfect. But it was because of all of the things that we're talking about. We were just fortunate enough to have two providers that knew us well and took the time to have those outcomes. And there is nothing better than that. It should be the norm and not the exception. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. We are experts in our own self. Barry?
Yes, I have two questions. One comment. When you're talking about all the people, the doctors, the staff, everybody at the hospital, the big piece that's missing for me is the insurance companies. What I understand is that they drive a lot of the 8-minute care, they drive a lot of the standard of care, they drive a lot of that. And I didn't hear anybody mention, including them as part of the problem, but also part of the solution. The second question I had, or comment I had, was going back to the fellows, because I think I'm interested, is how long has this fellows program been in place? And could you give me a couple of lists of the achievements so far?
Bill, what is it, maybe 3 years?
Honestly, I don't know when the fellow program began. I just know when Victor contacted me, then there were already existing fellows when he contacted me. So it's probably been 3 years. He wrote this book in, let's see when he wrote this book. Was it 2017?
Yeah, it's 5 years ago, yeah.
And he gave me this book in 2018. So, but I don't know the answer to that question specifically.
Okay.
And what have we accomplished? Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I think probably the most important thing is this How to Revolt guide 1, right? So this is a good example of an underfunded, incredibly important revolution, right? So there's just not a lot of funds to have a big industry kind of thing where you don't have conferences, associations. This is a small foundation due to philanthropy that people are willing to say, you know what, there is issues here. So I think if you probably look at the How to Revolt guide, that's probably the thing I would say, with all kinds of things that are now going to come from that. There was just they just had a board meeting in New York 6 or so months and created a strategic plan, and so that's out there as well. So I'd say that those are the things that are early accomplishments.
Okay, thank you. And where's the How to Revolt guide? Where do I get that?
I put
the book you're talking about?
I put it in the chat, so you'll see the How to Revolt guide is in the chat, as is the webpage where you can get the book.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll say that we don't know how to do this. And that's why we're having conversations all around the globe to talk to people, to rekindle some passions that people went into medicine in the first place for, to rekindle those human connections. Victor talks about love in this book. Love has largely gone out of healthcare, but it needs to be put back in so that we love one another, that we have those connections with one another. So
Thank you, Bill. And we will put all of these, excuse me, all these resources in the in a follow-up for you all as well. So you can get those there. Yep. We'll get to Linda and then we will wrap up. We are already getting towards the end of the hour here.
Yeah, and then I'll just be quick because I'm going to echo the two moms of the group who are still in the world of pediatrics, and I am still in the world of pediatrics as well, although my son is 27 and he is not able to yet fully access adult care services because he is a person with medical complexity and disability. And the reason that I am speaking into this is because it's not just that kind care, but it's access, even being able to get your foot in the door to access the care. And so I'm going to drop in the chat, there's the health affairs this month is focusing on health and disability for the entirety of their journal. And this is a very disturbing headline of one of the articles. I'm not the doctor for you. Physicians' attitudes about caring for people with disabilities. And that's the article that I'm going to drop into the chat box, because they are overwhelmed with all of the things that we're talking about in this report that came out, the research and report that came out. They are not aware or don't want to have to fulfill the ADA in their care environment. And the final sentence in the abstract is, our findings suggest that physician bias and general reluctance to care for people with disabilities plays a role in perpetuating the healthcare disparities they experience.
Yep.
And I can tell you that time and again, my son has been denied even getting a first appointment and trying to get all of the adult side services in place. And that's in that whole world of healthcare transition. So just that's something else to keep in perspective as you all create this revolt and move forward in this revolt. And then finally, I will say some people have talked in the chat on medical education and the involvement of family as faculty or patients as teachers within med ed. That call has been going on for quite a long time. There is some work being done in that regard on a national center, and also our National Council on Disability had a report to Congress. I want to say it was within the last year and a half or so. And that was one of their focused recommendations, is to have required medical education surrounding chronic care and disability as a component of curriculum for all medical students. So that's in the ballpark too. But thank you for y'all's work. I'm going to explore the website and I look forward to learning more.
That's great. Thanks, Linda. And, I'm sorry. Again, this is one of those things one says all the time. We're sorry that the system is actually failing. And it's a great example of unintentional cruelty. And actually, it's part of my worry. So people have talked a lot. So I am certainly agreeing with everybody that fee for service, as it currently is acknowledged, has broken a lot of things. But my worry, so the flip side of that is, of course, everybody would say value-based is the way to go. My worry on value-based is that there are going to be people who see, well, who do I get to assure that their care is going to be better? Because if I get somebody who actually is more healthy, I will actually get rewarded for keeping them healthy, as opposed to those who are. So that's the worry on both sides of this coin. And again, I'll be clear, we do not have answers. So you all are asking exactly the right question. It's why I would argue to join us, because what we need are more people to be care activists, to help us to think collectively in partnership with our clinician partners as care activists, to say we can envision what it might look like. If it's going to look like that, how might we get there? And what is the way in which we say to the current system, you can't just keep doing this to people as you are. It is unsustainable to have it continue to be as it is today. So I appreciate you all with time, and thanks much. And I'll let Bill close.
Well, I thought that was an excellent close.
That was, well, thank you both for all of this. Like I said, we will be sending out all these resources out in follow-up. This recording will go up on our online forums, so you are more than welcome to continue the conversation there. It'll probably be up Monday, and yeah, we will send this all out and follow up as well. One more thing is the Color of Care viewing documentary that we is now open. You can watch it anytime between now and the 27th, so next Thursday. So what you do, I'm going to put the link to register to view right there in the forum or in the chat. It's just your name and email, and in the confirmation is the link and the passcode to view the documentary. Next Friday, October 28th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, we are holding a discussion with our DEI Leadership Council about the documentary, about your thoughts and feelings, and we'll be sharing personal stories, and it's going to be a really, really great discussion there too. So if you register for the viewing, you will get, I will be sending out reminders and the Zoom information for that discussion as well. So make sure to register for the viewing and you'll get all the information for the discussion. Thank you for joining us today, and thanks for sticking around with us, and we will see you all next month. Thank you.
Thanks much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.